Alright, today we'll be tackling Castle Ensis, but before we do that, I'll show you how to actually skip it, because the boss here is not required for progression, and she's pretty tough, so I'll just show you how to get to the next area and get some more upgrades in case you find yourself stuck here. So warp to Ruined Forge Lava Intake. And we'll just turn around and go outside. Bounce up, and off to the right here you should be able to drop down. That looks safe enough. And then go southeast and just kind of hug these cliffs to the right. And there should be this little spot here that you can kind of slip through the rocks. Get some festive grease, and then we'll turn around and head back over towards this kind of swamp area here. See, there we go, there's an item. Toxic Mossling, and then, yeah, just follow the cliffs over here. There are a couple of ways we can go from the swamp to get to two different zones, but we'll just focus on Scadu Altus for now. Grab the Cookbook there, and then just keep going southeast along the path here. And up ahead we should find our first sealed spirit spring, which more sells a note about it if you decide to buy that, but it looks like this little ghostly pile of rocks here with like a little short mini spirit spring coming out of it. The way these work is you just have to find the actual pile of rocks that looks just like that nearby, break it, and then the spirit spring will unlock. I'll show you for this one where the rocks are. They're very close by, but you can actually, as I mentioned I think in the first episode, just use Margit's or Moog's Shackle to break it, and then that will unlock the spirit spring for you, and that's going to be our ticket to Scadu Altus. But I think pretty much all of these you can just use the shackle, and the shockwave should reach all the way to the real rock pile. There might be one exception to that I'm thinking of right now, like maybe the last one that we encounter in the DLC, but for the most part, if you find one, just use the shackle. Might as well try it no matter what, I guess. But yeah, get the Talisman of the Dread there, and then we'll go back for the Spirit Spring and take it up top. I wish they made these Spirit Springs look bigger somehow, because they look like the normal Spirit Springs in the base game, and I feel like they should only launch you as far as those ones do, but you kind of just like keep flying way longer with these ones, and I feel like it looks kind of silly. I mean, they look ridiculous in general, to be fair, but I don't know. Anyway, that gets us up to this like kind of hidden grace in the back of this Fort of Reprimand area, which we'll be back for in a bit. But for now, you can jump up here and over the wall. And mount up and circle around to the left to get in front of the fort. And there should be another grace for us up ahead here. Will be the Morth Highway South Grace, and then real quick, just since it's right nearby, there's a rune arc over here on the edge of the cliff. There we go. And then go back towards the grace, and there's a tunnel nearby we'll go through, and there's gonna be just like a whole war happening between some soldiers and the Ghost Flame Dragon. This encounter sucks because the soldiers tend to prioritize you for some reason, even though they're already fighting the dragon when you show up. And they don't even really do that much damage to the dragon, as you can see there in the corner. Doing about 15 to 20 damage basically for each hit. But we'll ignore that for now. We'll be back to deal with that later. Just hug these cliffs to the right, and we will find another sealed spirit spring. The rocks are just up ahead around the corner, but like I said earlier, I'm just going to be using Moog Shackle. Or Margits, doesn't matter, either one. And then jump up top here, and we'll just follow this road until we get to a Grace and another Michaelis Cross. I forgot to mention it, I guess, when I introed the video for some reason, but what we're doing right now is just running around and grabbing Scadutree Fragments. I feel like I probably should have mentioned that, but better late than never. So, there's the first one. Make sure you touch the cross and grab the Grace. Now, after that cross right there, this one in particular is one that we can go talk to Sir Ansbach about, so he'll have some more dialogue, but we'll take care of one more thing before we do that. And actually, I'm pretty sure we're like above Bonnie Jail right now. I don't want to get knocked off the edge by a boar. Back here. Okay. Yeah, let's run up on you and headbutt you. It is super foggy. Let me try passing the time. Still seems pretty foggy. Maybe we'll be able to see. Yeah, that's good enough. So down there is Bonnie Village, which is the area I mentioned that you shouldn't go past, because once you cross these bridges over here, that is the road that leads to the alternate entrance to Shadowkeep, which is all the way over there. But surprisingly, basically the second you cross those bridges, like right when you get to that tree line past those two bridges, you will trigger the broken Greatrune message. So, if you recall what I was saying at the end of last episode about how approaching Shadowkeep will trigger a message about a Greatrune breaking, and that's going to force all the NPCs to move forward, whether you've completed all their interactions already or not. So, yeah, I wouldn't do that yet. I'd recommend just not crossing those bridges down there until you're pretty much ready to go do Shadowkeep. That way you don't miss anything or lock yourself out of any dialogue. So, that is the other area I was pointing out in the last episode. Now you have some visual reference, and of course the other one is just literally going up to the front doorstep of Shadowkeep, which is a lot more intuitive. But we're back to Morth Highway South. Overshot that by a mile. There we go. And we will run through this tunnel again and just keep following this road until we get the map for Scadu Altus, so I can actually show you where these places are on the map. If I remember, of course. Hopefully I will, since I just said it out loud. And I'm just going to pass by all the items we see because I need them to be where they're supposed to be when I get to these areas in the walkthrough later, so I don't get lost. But feel free to grab whatever you want on the way. Pick up these little orange things too. I am 99% sure I have something about these in my notes that I'll read off in like 2 minutes here, but just grab them and keep running. Right up here at the crossroads. Whoops. There we go. Get the map for Scadu Altus. That is Shadowkeep right up there, so this is the line you don't want to cross for triggering the Greatrune, and then that's Bonnie Village. So once you cross those two bridges, this is the other line you don't want to cross. So aside from those two areas, you're pretty much safe to explore anywhere, but once you have that map, keep going a little bit further into this camp. Just jump up to the right here for another fragment that I missed again. I need a new controller so bad. Alright, and then run south. Theoretically, you should be fine to clear out that camp in front of Shadowkeep. Not even theoretically, you are just fine, because the Greatrune won't break until you actually get like right outside the front gate. But I'm just going to opt for playing it safe right now and just not getting any closer to it until we are ready to do Shadowkeep. Try to practice what I preach with that. Here we got another Scadutree Fragment. Touch the cross and grab the High Road Cross Grace. And then that should bring us to Blessing level 7, I believe. 6 and 7. And if you don't want to level up too much before we do Castle Ensis and the boss inside, you can just hold on to these fragments and use them later too. I'm just going to turn them in now though, personally. And then you could also talk to the NPCs here. But I said in the first episode of the walkthrough that if people were struggling, they could skip to this episode and see where to get more fragments. So I'll show you where all those are before I talk to any NPCs so I don't spoil any questline stuff. So with that in mind, let's go to Rauh Ruins over here to the east that we passed on the way here. That's insane, actually, that just happened. That's genuinely blowing my mind. So we'll try this again, just slightly to the left. And we survive. And then we'll go in this camp here. There will be another statue with a fragment on it. And grab these embers of Mesmer from the ground. There we go. Just wherever you see these little orange glowing slime things. There's a couple in the road too here that we grabbed already. They respawn every time you rest. But try to grab at least 2 of those. You should have plenty by now since we've ran by so many already. But we'll need them for a crafting item later. We'll grab this Rauh Ruins Grace here. That's where we are on the map. Touch the cross, get the Scadutree Fragment. There's another NPC there I'm just going to ignore for now. And then next, if you go further into these ruins, there's going to be like a giant hole in the ground. And if you just circle around to the right of it a bit, there's going to be a guy with a shining pot on his head. But right behind him around this corner to the left is going to be another one of those really annoying enemies. It's going to jump out. So this one's a little harder to just run in and grab, but there's another fragment there. And then you can climb up here, follow these cliffs to the left. And there will be a Revered Spirit Ash and another one of those annoying Curse Blade enemies, so I'm just going to keep running. I just opened the map a second ago, so hopefully you saw where I went. And we're just kind of running north until we run into this cliff wall in front of us, and then we'll turn left into this little pond full of angry gummy worms. And right here at the entrance to this cave, we got another fragment. Still can't open my map. There we go. That's where we're at. And this next one takes a bit of hiking to get to, but just start by going through this cave. I will grab this stuff. I don't think we're coming back through here on foot, at least anytime soon. And drop down into this poison swamp, and we'll follow to the right until we get to the cliff. And just follow this cliff until we find the Forager Brood. There we go, Forager Brood Cookbook 5, Pearlescent Scale. This is where we're at on the map. Through this little cave here to get to the poison area. And then we'll mount up in this first little structure in the middle of the swamp. Get the Gravebird anklets and just keep going west here. Smithing Stone 3s, keep going still. Just up ahead, we should find a Grace for Rauh base. that rind. Let's fucking go. Yeah, so this is kind of weird, because that's... I lied. That's Shadowkeep. So we, like, passed right underneath it, which, remember I said, like, this line is what you don't want to cross. It only triggers if you're actually on this path going up to the front gate of it, which is kind of strange. But we just went, like, under this whole, like, landmass here. For some reason, it doesn't trigger the Broken Greatrune, even though that other spot miles away to the east does. But is what it is. So from this grace, we'll go southwest towards where you can see the map for this area. I feel like it's not nighttime right now, even though it's looking a little dark in the sky. There might be a Larval Tear around here. We'll grab it if I see it, otherwise I know for a fact that I will come back for it later in the video. I like to go over to the left here and try to use the trees to block this guy. Yeah, this is not nighttime. The Larval Tear would be like right here in front of me. That's alright though, we'll be back for it later. Already picked up plenty too, so if you needed to respec, hopefully you've gotten plenty of opportunities to do that already. Grab the Rauh Ruins Map fragment there and just keep following the path a little bit further to reach Templetown Ruins, and we'll circle around to the right side of it here to reach the Templetown Ruins Grace. And then right over here inside of Templetown Ruins, right about there roughly, we're going to get another fragment. So we just want to go over to like the far side of it, and if you're approaching this from the south, from the other direction, we're looking for like the southernmost wall, I guess. Describing this in the weirdest way possible. But here we go. You should be able to go through here. I didn't know you could do that on horseback. Learn something new every day. And just climb up here, across this bridge. Drop down. Still need torrent. Oh my god, that was the widest turn ever. Up here on the bridge, grab the fragments. And then maybe it'll let me warp if I kill that guy. Wow, it actually did. I can't believe that worked, I'm not gonna lie. And then... Actually, we don't need the warp. I lied. Just gonna jump back outside. Because if we run all the way south past the Templetown Ruins... There's one of those other items that we don't really care about as much. But we still want them. Alright, and then... We'll go nowhere because I can't warp again. Who's angry at me? You guys seem chill, but we'll kill you anyway. There we go. Alright, so warp back to High Road Cross. Right there. And we'll go get these last couple fragments. Set the time to night if it's not already, because we can get a Larval Tear here. And then I'll also cash in these blessings. And we're gonna go up to this church up here, to the northwest. Now there's a very missable item nearby that I was going to grab after the fragment I pick up here, but since this is the last fragment before I'll tell you to pause and go back to episode 1 if you just skip to this episode for more upgrades and don't want spoilers, I realized in hindsight that putting a missable item right after the spot I tell people that they should skip or skip to or something, basically just right around an area that there's a high chance of people skipping in the video, putting a super missable item there seemed like a bad idea, so let's get it now. So from the Larval Tear, we'll just circle around the other side of the Church of the Crusade. And right up here by the cliff, there should be an injured or maybe just cold Forager brood. But if you go to your inventory and drop a warming stone next to him, let him cook for a second, and he'll get back to work, back to foraging, his life's purpose. So happy. But if you reload the game, you can now interact with him, and you'll get the Forager Brood Cookbook 4 and a Shadow Sunflower, and then the next time you talk to Moore, he'll thank you for doing that and you'll get another reward. But let's just grab this fragment in the church for now and finish up this segment in the video. Now we're going to jump inside, and you're going to get invaded by Fire Knight Queelign for the second time if you already did Ballarat Tower Settlement. Otherwise this will be the first time, but you should have time to just run in and grab the 2 Scadutree Fragments from the altar, and then there's a rune arc right next to them as well. And then you could just run away and ignore the invader if you want, and that's going to be all for fragments. So again, if you're watching this section early to get more fragments before you tackle the early areas of the DLC, this would be the place to pause and go back to episode 1 right after you grab this. You should have 20 fragments and be able to get to Scadutree Blessing 10. Well, actually no, you'll be at 19 fragments in level 9 until you grab the fragment from Ballarat Tower Settlement in episode 2. That's the only one that we didn't just run and grab, but that place should be a breeze at Shadow Blessing 9. So yeah, just get out of here, go back in the walkthrough now if you don't want spoilers. I'm just going to fight this guy and continue on like normal from here on out though. So in we go, we get dismounted, fragments over here on the right, and the next item is the rune arc.
Thou shalt not evade the flame of Mesmer.
Down he goes. So if that's the second encounter you've had with this NPC, he'll drop the Ash of War Flame Skewer and the Prayer Room Key. If not, he'll drop the Crusade Insignia Talisman, and just make sure you go kill him back in Ballarat Tower Settlement as well to get the other rewards from him that we just picked up here. Like I said in that episode, his drops are dependent on which order you find him in, not the location itself. Also, a note about that Forager Brood Cookbook we just got. You have to get that before approaching Shadow Keep and getting that message about the broken Greatrune. Otherwise, you could potentially lock yourself out of another cookbook that Moore will only give you after helping with that particular Forager with the Warming Stone, so just make sure to do this first. Moore is one of the NPCs that moves on when we break the Greatrune, which prevents you from going back and talking to him in his normal spot to get the follow-up reward. That's why. So, with that, let's actually just warp to Main Gate Cross and speak to Moore to get that extra cookbook from him.
Well, oh, this the Forager give that.
There we go, Cookbook 7. I think you can talk to him more time.
Often you enjoy. I like.
Says he likes you. Hell yeah. And then while you're here, also speak to Sir Ansbach about the cross where the eye was abandoned.
I can hardly pretend to Mikkel. It is
Make sure you talk to him a couple times to hear all his dialogue.
righteous time concerning the full, but we do, and that is what the tower of a well kept, the gate of God. Righteous time.
Alright, there we go. So warp back to High Road Cross. And we're gonna touch the cross if you didn't already and speak to Leda. And you can ask about the Hornsent for sure.
Long ago, a cleanse. It's no wonder that aside, and in this regard, they were never saying they just happened to put it still erect.
And then you might have to reload the area at least once if you haven't, or if you don't have this ask about the Silent Monk option here. I'm pretty sure the trigger for this is just being next to the monk whose name is Dryleaf Dane. That's the guy that was standing next to the Grace over in Rauh Ruins east of here. But you don't have to speak to him because he doesn't say anything anyway, as you can see, the silent monk. So yeah, just being near him seems to trigger this dialogue option.
He's been in this. He might be. There's no call. Danes would look. We've been acquainted. Perhaps one day.
And then you can pick up this item near Hornsent, get the Monk's Missive and the May the Best Win gesture. And if you go back over to Rauh Ruins, you can actually use that gesture next to Dane and it'll trigger a fight with him. I thought I was crazy, but I looked it up and apparently they actually just removed this in a recent patch, but you used to be able to summon him for the boss here at the end of Castle Ensis if you did that first. I have no idea why they removed that, but you'll still be able to summon Leda without doing anything, so you'll have at least one summon available regardless. But yeah, talk to Hornsent now. I'll give you a new cross map.
He says the truth of his is evident. Gold in that for sale.
And yeah, just like the last time, you don't need the map for anything. It's just gonna mark more of these, or not mark them on your map, but show you on an item in a really bad, not very descriptive picture where more of these crosses might be, but you're watching a walkthrough, so you don't need to know that. Now, the last very random thing I want to do before we go to Castle Ensis actually is take out the Furnace Golem back in Gravesite Plain, since we now have the recipe and materials to make hefty furnace pots. You don't need them by any means, but they are very nice for speeding up the Golem kills. So warp back here to Scorched Ruins and go ahead and craft up at least one hefty furnace pot. You should only need one, but I'll explain how this works. Essentially, there are a couple of ways that you can take out furnace golems, or at least a couple different strategies that you can mix depending on how you're feeling. For most furnace golems, like this one in particular, you're just going to keep hitting its legs while avoiding the fire until you get a stagger. You need 3 staggers before it'll actually fall over though. Once it falls over, you'll be able to land a crit on its face, which will do a ton of damage, but probably won't kill it, so you'll have to repeat that process a couple times, and it honestly takes a while. But that's a way that you can just brute force it, no matter what items you have at your disposal. How long it takes just depends on how much damage you deal, and how fast you can stagger it, and wow, the fog is really thick right now. But the other thing you can do is toss hefty fire pots into the opening on its head. Hefty furnace pots specifically are by far the most effective. They'll do an insane amount of damage, but they are kind of expensive to make. Embers of Mesmer can be farmed pretty easily in Scadu Altus. There's that route I just showed you here along this road next to Rauh Ruins, that there are a few all the way up here, and then there's some in this camp next to the road as well. So that's an easy way to get some if you ever need any. And then the furnace visages are a bit harder to come by, but you pick up a couple in the spot that we actually got the cookbook that teaches hefty furnace pots over here at Rundown Traveler's Rest under the Ellic Great Bridge. And then there's also, we got 3 from Hornsent for bringing him the Scorpion Stew here from the NPC over in Bellarat Tower. So you definitely should have a few of those by now and be able to make at least one hefty furnace pot. And if you manage to land just that one furnace pot and successfully kill the golem, they drop a furnace visage guaranteed every time. So you break even on the furnace visages even, as long as you're not missing the throw. You also need some red mushrooms, but those are everywhere. If you don't want to waste those crafting materials, like I said, you can always use regular hefty fire pots as well, but they don't hit as hard as the furnace ones, and if you're watching the walkthrough, you should have plenty of materials for the furnace ones. But anyway, to maximize the speed that you kill these things, I would recommend combining both methods. So stagger them, get a crit, and then quickly run over and toss a furnace pot into their head before they stand up. You have to do it kind of fast, but that combo is the best way to do it. So let's go take care of the Gravesite Plain Furnace Golem now. As far as fighting them goes, I usually prefer to use Torrent because you're at close range, or when you're at close range, you're really just jumping over the flame wave from its stomps, and that's easier to do if you can double jump. Still very easy to do on foot normally. If you're in front of him, you can swipe like that and do a grab attack, and he's going to throw you in his head and you're going to get flushed. That's not going to feel good. And then really the only other attack you have to worry about at close range is when he jumps up and there's kind of an explosion and a fire wave, but this is really the extent of what you have to worry about. At long range, he can like kick and there's just a big wave of fireballs that fly at you. And then he can also like rain down fireballs from the sky. They'll just shoot out of his head like a volcano. But if you have any like AoE spell or incantation that hits multiple times, Those are usually really nice for staggering them quickly. And they're usually pretty easy to like weave in between his attacks if you actually time it and aren't just brain dead standing there doing it like I am. There's a stagger. I don't think I can do this one on horseback. I guess I didn't check. But that's why I'm on the ground now. There we go. Down he goes. Run over to his face. Have your furnace pot ready. That does a ton of damage. Throw that in there and it finishes him off. Oh, almost. Very close. There we go. So yeah, that's the best way to do it, but you defeat him for the Deflecting Hardtear, which I absolutely love. This thing gives you 5 minutes of Sekiro combat, basically. When it's active, you take no physical damage and drastically reduced stamina consumption for performing spontaneous guards, which means hitting the block button right before an attack hits you. If you do it right, you'll hear like a little pinging sound effect, and if you follow that up with a guard counter, the guard counter will do 20% more damage. But you can also stack the damage of that guard counter 4 times, or up to 4 times, if you keep landing deflects within 5 seconds of each other, so up to 80% extra damage on a guard counter, which of course you can also stack with the talisman that enhances guard counters, so you can get some insane damage off of that. I wish it was a talisman, honestly, but nevertheless, I'm very happy it's in the game because I love Sekiro. And also, just to be clear, the enhanced guard you get when you block at the last second with this tier is enough that it's totally viable to block with two-handed weapons. You absolutely don't need a shield for it to work. It's so much fun. But I pretty much just wanted to knock that out now, so you would have the option of using that tier against this boss later if you wanted to give it a try. So with that, let's go kill Castle, or not kill, clear Castle Ensis. So warp to Castle Front. And we're going to kill everything inside of Castle Ensis, so that wasn't totally incorrect. So first of all, let's drop down to the left of this bridge. Take out those bats with a single kill, or a single swing. Dude, I just keep saying kill. I might actually have a problem. I need to be locked up. Get the Spelldrake Talisman +3, and then warp back to Castle Front. Get this out of my inventory. We'll pop a Rune Arc too, why not? Not planning on dying. Actually, we can get another Blessing too, I just realized. Might as well do that. There we go, level 10. Alright, so now we cross the bridge. Get some black fireflies. We'll take out this Troll Knight. Sad. Even more sad. Alright, down he goes. Should drop a Somber Smithing Stone 9 and some Royal Magic Grease. Running this room over here. Take that guy out. There's Shadow Realm Rune 4, and then wrap around the back of that building. Somber Smithing Stone 3. And straight across to the northwest. Get some even worse loot somehow. Somber Smithing Stone 1. I go up the stairs, jump up to the right here. Get a broken rune. Come back for that item there in a second. Up here to the right, there's a soldier and a dog. Same thing on the left. I really was hoping he would just fall. Alright, and then climb up here and up the ladder. And we will get one of the best weapons they've ever added to the game. Maybe not objectively best, but I really like using it. It's very fun. And there is a pretty high chance that I might end up just switching to this and using it. Maybe before this episode is even over. Definitely still giving strong swordsman vibes with this build. So, what better weapon than just the ultimate swordsman moveset. Grab some flight pinions, and then up here we'll deal with this Black Knight. I'm actually distracted thinking about that sword right now. I'm doing really good damage with my current setup, but oh, it's just so fun. Anyway, kill those guys, drop down here for the item I pointed out earlier. Get some bolts, and right behind those is a little cave that brings us to another item we passed by. With slab fireflies. And then you can go into this room next to the torch. Find a chest containing Loyal Knight's Cookbook. Okay, sorry. Over here. Dog around the corner. The silver pickled foulfoot. Now we can go for the grace. And another somber smithing stone 1, in case you didn't have enough of those. So rest up, and to get through this locked gate, we're just gonna have to sneak around. So go over here where this guy's sitting. Drop down once for some knot resin. That was strange. Finish that guy off. Drop down. Maybe some dogs. And some arrows, and then go outside. And we'll go right first. I need you to move so I can make this jump. There we go. That little rabbit thing was about to get me killed. Starlight shards. Bro, what is your problem? Twice almost. Alright, jump up here, get some drawstring royal magic grease, and then check behind the waterfall. Some knot resin. And I gotta be honest, I really love it when they hide loot behind waterfalls, but I don't love when that loot is not resin. Climb up this ladder. There's gonna be an enemy hiding off here to the left. Take both of them out. And across the way right outside is the gate mechanism, so go ahead and crack that open. And feel free to rest at the grace out there if you need to, otherwise just keep going. Some string over here to the left. And then there will be a dog hiding over here to the right. And slab fireflies. Try to take these guys out. There you are. And then to reach this guy up on the cliff, if you don't have any ranged attacks, just climb up this ladder here. Take out the page, Somber Smithing Stone 6, and there you go. Now up ahead, we got an NPC called Moonrithil Carrion Knight. Pretty straightforward, just hits really hard. Ooh, ow. Damn. I just want a waterfowl dance. It's so fun. Worked in the end. So you get Moonrithil's Knight Sword, which is pretty much just a carbon copy of the Troll Knight Sword, but with the giant glintstone phalanx Ash of War instead of just the normal Troll's Roar. So kinda nice, I suppose, if that's your thing. Take that guy out, check this room on the right. Take him out too, so he doesn't ambush us in a second. Shadow Realm Rune 2. And one more in the hallway. Same thing here, if you have ranged attacks, kill him, otherwise you can go this way after you grab that corpse. Open the gates, drop down to the left. Some dew gems, and then you can climb up here to sneak up behind him. Watch out for the page on the left. And there's the sorcerer. And then over here on the west end of the roof, Somber Smithing Stone. And then over here on the northeast end, drop down once for the Glint Blade Trio Sorcery, and then one more time find a chest with the Wolf Crest Shield. And if you go up these stairs outside, this will get us right back to where we just fought that NPC. And then you can backtrack to where we just opened that gate. Alright, and then up here there's a bunch of enemies down to the right. I like to sneak up on this guy up top first, though. Take him out. Damn. That really just comboed me, that's crazy. Kind of a sticky situation, not gonna lie. I have no idea what they're looking at. Grab all the items down there, and then up to this last tower here. Careful at the top of the stairs, there will be one more guy. Or don't be careful, just take a spear to the face, that works too. And then behind him, open this chest for an imbued sword key. And now for the knights. I really thought I could do it. So humiliating every time you make a mistake against these guys, just getting flattened. Oh well. Now up the lift. And you get the Castle Lord's Chamber Grace, and you are safe to rest if you would like. Check this balcony out here. There's Somber Smithing Stone 4. Jump off the edge. Down a couple more times. To get to this tower with a bridge sticking out of it. Climb up these stairs and then up the ladder. And again. To get to a chest containing the Ash of War wing stance. And oh man, really, that Milady sword is really calling my name right now. But if you cross that bridge down there, it just takes you over eventually to like that bridge down there, the stone one or the rampart, I guess, is where we just killed that Black Steel Knight. So it's really just a shortcut back to the lift we just took, so you can just warp back to Castle Lord's Chamber instead. That's pretty much it for Castle Ensis though, there's really not much to it. As for the boss in the next room, there is in fact much to it. Castle Ensis feels super manageable to me, even without going to Scadu Altus first and doubling your blessing level. But the boss is significantly harder than anything else in the castle. I'm going to be tackling this fight now just because this is the Castle Ensis episode, but I know a lot of people really struggle with this boss, so just know there's really no reason to get hung up on it. If you're really struggling, you can always come back later. But this is Rellana Twin Moon Knight. Honestly, with level 10 Scadutree Blessing, she's not unreasonably difficult by any means. Still definitely tough, but I definitely was not level 10 the first time I fought her, so I know this can be kind of rough if you're underprepared. As intense as her moveset is, though, I think the hardest part was just how much health she has. So the extra blessing levels are really going to help offset that issue. She wields dual light greatswords that she will buff with magic and fire in phase 2, so she's dealing 3 types of damage in this fight: physical, fire, and magic, which means something like the Pearl Drake Talisman that can boost your damage, or your resistance to fire and magic at the same time is definitely useful. Or, since her fire and magic attacks that, or like her special fire infused and magic infused attacks in phase 2 are very different from each other, you might just opt for the Spelldrake Talisman or a Flamedrake Talisman if you're like struggling with one of those more specifically, which could definitely be the case. Now you're not going to get very long attack windows here at all, so I would really recommend heavy attacks whenever you can to work towards breaking her stance and getting a crit. She also has, it seems like, just infinite poise. I don't, like, you really can't stagger her out of any of her attacks for the most part. Maybe if you're like running an insane strength build you can, but even with like a great sword I feel like I wasn't really staggering her very often. So play patiently but not passively. If you get too far away from her, she's going to constantly pull out glintstone phalanxes, those like homing glowing swords. And then she also has like a long range arc of magic, very similar to Moonveil's Ash of War if you've ever used that katana. And yeah, you'll just have a hard time getting any damage on her if you're at long range. She can also combo the glintstone phalanxes with melee attacks, which makes it pretty much impossible to not get hit by something when she does that. The timing is just very, very annoying. So try to stay close enough to her to keep up the pressure by hitting her once every time she finishes a combo, but be careful about initiating because she loves to do this like spinning sidestep slash if you're the first one to attack. We want to be chipping away at her health when she makes a mistake, not the other way around, and she loves to counterattack, so we just kind of have to play her game and only counterattack her basically. As much as she spams attacks quickly, the slower attacks she has are the ones that really hit you hard, and those are honestly pretty easy to dodge as long as you aren't panic rolling and already stuck in an animation. Which, to be fair, is much easier said than done since her combos are so long and so fast. But things like her double overhead slash or double thrust where she hits you with both swords at the same time are the ones you really need to avoid. Getting clipped by one of her really fast slashes mid-combo here and there really isn't going to kill you, but those ones will. One attack I want to draw attention to is her magic greatsword. She charges above her head. You just want to wait for it to come down and roll to the right no matter where you are, and then she'll follow it up with a horizontal sweep, which you want to roll through earlier than you think because it comes out really fast. And you want to be dodging this to the right, otherwise she can potentially hit you on her follow-through backswing just because it wraps around her pretty far. Now at around half health, she'll transition to phase 2, where she'll always start by buffing her 2 swords. If you're close to her and you see it coming, you can go in for a couple charged heavies, but be careful because her buffing animation has a small hitbox, so try not to stand on either side of her where her swords will end up being, either be in front of her or directly behind when she buffs. After she buffs, she'll always start phase 2 with either a big AoE fire attack that she pretty much always does if you're up close, or if you're far away, she'll shoot a series of magic waves at you. I personally would definitely recommend trying to be close after the phase transition to bait out the fire attack, because if you see it coming, you literally just have to like run and roll backwards a couple times to avoid it completely. The timing is not very strict at all compared to the magic one. However, if you haven't stance broken her yet in phase 1, I often find that the charged heavies I land during the phase transition will do that job, so you can potentially get a huge chunk of damage there if you're being aggressive while she's transitioning. In phase 2, she also has her signature twin moon attack where she floats into the air and summons 2 moons. They come crashing down one after the other, and you just need to jump right before they hit the ground to avoid them. And then after a short pause, she'll crash down herself and you just jump over that too. Aside from that, in phase 2, her combos are pretty similar to phase 1, but she can weave in magic or fire attacks to her finishers, which are really good at roll catching you if you're moving backwards. She likes to leave delayed explosive with her fire sword that work kind of like Mohg's Blood Flame Talons, where like if you dodge backward to avoid the swing, the delayed explosion will probably hit you. So in phase 2, you especially want to be dodging into and behind her. And the last thing, like I said earlier, you can summon Needle Knight Leda for this fight. She's honestly really good, I think. The boss has a ton of health, so you do want to be aggressive to make sure Leda doesn't die too early, but you can definitely get quite a few stance breaks if you take her with you. But let's see how this goes. Alright guys, I'm going to be honest, I died once and immediately caved and went to go pick up Milady, so we got a Lightning Milady plus 25 with wing stance on it. We're so back, that's all I have to say. Also, the boss didn't do the thing I said she would at the phase transition for some reason. Which isn't unheard of, but it happens like 99% of the time. Forgot to pop a Greatrune. I would have been sad if that killed me. So yeah, those big overhead double slashes, really want to watch out for those. You saw it, ran in, initiated with a jumping attack, and she went for that like sideways, sidestep counter attack thing. There's this, you roll to the right, next one, roll quickly. Nice. Probably go to phase 2 the second she gets up from this. So we hit her with more charged heavies. Stay close, try to bait out. Oh, she's going for it. Nope. Alright, never mind. So yeah, just gotta back up and get away from the fire. There's your special attack. Jump, jump, pause and jump. And down she goes. I love this sword so much. It's so fun. Yeah, so you defeat her for the remembrance of the Twin Moon Knights. And you can trade that for her dual swords or the Twin Moon sorcery, and her swords are a dual weapon, so you get both of them with the one remembrance, no need to duplicate it. A lot of people, rightfully so, I think, complain about the swords having kind of low damage. They are just split among too many stats, because you're trying to do magic, physical, and fire damage, and, you know, you want to lean into, like, your physical stats, like strength and dexterity. I can't remember if it scales with all four or not, but you want to lean into your physical stats to make the like base swords hit harder, or lean into your magic stats if you want the Ash of War to do most of the work. So it's like, until you are just crazy high level and have like 80 and all those stats, it just kind of feels a little underpowered. Unfortunately, just how it goes with split damage type weapons sometimes. But anyway, outside here, you've got the High Road Cross Grace with Leda and Hornsent, so there's your proof that this is in fact optional, because we've obviously been here before. Before we wrap this up, there's one other section that we can reach now that we've beaten her. Well, I guess you don't actually have to kill her to reach this, but it's part of Castle Ensis that's only accessible from the Scadu Altus side, so this is the cool way to do it, is just to go along these cliffs and drop down. Otherwise, you can just go way down that river where the Phantom Troll is down there to get down to this river. There's really no risk of dying if you do that, so that's no fun. We'll cross this and pick up this Shadow Realm rune here. So, there's... Oh, we're falling, okay. See that bowl over there straight ahead? It's got a Starlight Shard in it, as you might imagine. To get to it, you have to like get onto this railing here, which you can do by like jumping on top of some of this stuff carefully. Right? Like you can see I can get up there, but if you like mess this up, then you can just like you topple these things if you don't like land directly on top of them, right? So it's a little tricky, but wherever you see some like stuff that you can jump onto, you can hop up to this railing. But we also want to open this chest. Get the Carrion Sorcery Sword. But yeah, the reason I was saying it up there is because obviously you could just drop down onto the railing from up there. You didn't want to get the other stuff around here. There we go. Carefully now. so much effort for something that really no one's gonna use, probably. There we go. Jump over here. And Starlight Shard. Yay. And that is, that's it. So that's it for Scadu Altus. Actually, hold on. Okay. This is where I thought it was. These cliffs that I'm dropping onto right now didn't look familiar to me, but yeah, they do just take you down to where the eagles and the waterfall and stuff were. We already got that corpse over there, so we're good. That is the end of the episode. Thank you very much for watching. Hopefully that was helpful to you, and I will see you next time. Have a good one.